Hello, I'm Megginson, and welcome to the Megginson method. Today we're going to talk about how stress ages the body. So we know that stress causes damage to us internally and causes sickness and exacerbates our illnesses and our symptoms. But how does it affect us on the outside? So the first thing is with the hair. So our hair has a natural cycle of growth where it's natural for the hair to fall out, and then we have this cycle of regrowth. What happens when the body is under stress is that cycle of the hair falling out becomes longer, and the cycle where we regrow the hair becomes shorter. So over time, as we have more stress and the body is over, and it's not a lot of stress, it's just that normal level of stress that we think is just normal and what everybody else is going through, and you might not feel that you have any symptoms of stress. But if you start to notice that more of your hair is falling out or that your hair is thinning, these are all things that are related to stress. So because of that cycle of the hair falling out more and less of it regrowing. Now what also happens is because the follicle is under stress, it starts to produce less color, so you have more graying. So all of this is premature aging. So even in your 20s, you can have graying because you're under a lot of stress, because the follicles are under stress. And on the flip side, if you're really good at managing your stress, you'll find that none of these things will happen. You can actually cause that aging process to happen later. So that's where dealing with stress really helps with all of these situations, but specifically with hair, we want to have that hair growth to be longer so that we have more of our hair growing. You're always going to have hair falling out. That's part of the hair cycle, but we want to try and lengthen the hair growth cycle. Now the same thing happens with skin. We have a monthly cycle of losing skin and then regenerating the skin. Now what normally happens with age is that we slow down that rate of regenerating the skin, and we're not as efficient at getting rid of our skin. And so you have to use exfoliants to get rid of the dead skin, but we're also just not regenerating our collagen. And what happens with stress is that whole process happens faster. So we don't regenerate our cells, and we're also holding on to that old dead skin. And so the skin wrinkles faster, and it also doesn't react to sun damage, for instance. So if we're in the sun and we have less regeneration of cells, we're more impacted by the damage from the sun. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so it becomes even more important to wear a good SPF all the time so that you're not aging because of the sun, but you also need a good antioxidant or an exfoliant to get rid of the dead skin cells. But if we're not under stress, then all of that becomes less. So even if you're doing all of those things, it prolongs that period of when the body will naturally start to have more of that happening at a slower rate, where stress just makes all of this happen sooner, as soon as in your 20s or early 30s, if you're having a lot of stress over a period of time. Now posture, this is something I say to all of my clients, having this posture, and we become so used to hunching over our computers, and this just makes you look miserable and old when you're hunched over, and when you've sat like this all day and you leave the office, you're here with this forward head, forward shoulders up to your ears because you're stressed. Even if you're driving, if it's a long commute to work and you're driving and it's stressful and there's traffic and you've got your shoulders up to your ears, all of this ages you. You look unhappy, you look stressed, you look old. And so by dealing with your stress and dealing with it throughout the day, so you never have those periods of stress. So having a routine that works throughout your lifestyle so that you don't get triggered. And that's where I talk a lot about NLP techniques to keep you from getting triggered by events around you and people around you, so that you don't get this period of, that also makes you look older. And then finally, digestion. And this is probably one of the most important ones because it affects all the others as well. So we know through science that when you're under stress that you're not digesting as well. So the digestive system isn't functioning at its best. So you're not getting enough of the nutrients. So even if you're eating a perfect diet full of all of the things that you know are good for you, your omega-3s, your healthy fats, if you're under a lot of stress, you're not getting all of those nutrients because you're not able to digest them. And stress affects the gut, and we know that the gut health affects everything else. So if you're not getting the adequate nutrition, it affects even your teeth. You're more susceptible to gum disease and teeth issues, more cavities. Your nails will become more brittle, your hair becomes more dull and more lifeless, and it becomes thinner as well. And of course, it affects your skin and skin issues. Stress also exacerbates any skin issues that you may have. So you'll have more acne. You might have more sort of dryness and psoriasis, eczema, all of these other symptoms that you may or may not normally have if you didn't have the stress. So it exacerbates all of that. So these are just ways that stress ages the body, and by finding ways to manage stress better, we're able to change the way that we're affected by the stress so that we prolong that aging process so it doesn't happen until later, so that we're able to stay more youthful. For more ideas on how to deal with stress, you can check out my evening ritual video, which helps also with helping you sleep in the evenings, but it helps to just get rid of all of your negative thoughts and all of the things that are causing you stress in your mind so that you're able to manage your stress better. I also have a video on 3 anti-aging tips, which would be great for you to try, and I'd love to hear how it works for you. Thank you.